This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
No, cut that. Keep that. Someday it's going to be worth something.
Russ Wakeland.
You put me in an ATST with frickin' Wookiees attacking me and whatnot?
Now you're talking.
And Andrew Hartland in the third chair.
Best thing about Captain Con is I get to escape from the everyday humdrum of family. Ow!
With contributions from Total Fangirl
Vampires do not sparkle.
and our loyal listener.
Crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming at the speed of a brilliantly pirate galley conned by a brave and sassy captain. Today's edition is brought to you by all of our friends over at Patreon, the men and the women, the boys and the girls who keep this show going day after day in all of its grand mediocrity. Thanks in particular today to Jake Fisher, Teho. Oh, I know you and I've met you and you live nearby and I can't remember how to pronounce it. Teho Fitkow, Kenneth Gelling. Oh, that's not even fair to have those two letters together. Ben Fletcher and Jason Ford. There we go. Let's end with a couple easy ones. All right. I'm Geekly McGradigan, your host today. Our panelists are Russ Allen Wrench Wakeland and Pasha of Organized Play, Andrew Hacksaw Hartland. Let's begin. Issue number 1. Piracy in the Golden Age was predominantly a male occupation, although a minority of pirates were women. On many ships, women as well as young boys were prohibited by the ship's contract, which all crew members were required to sign. Because of the resistance to allowing women on board, many female pirates did not identify themselves as such. Anne Bonny, for example, dressed and acted as a man while on Captain Calico Jack's ship. Question. Aside from the infamous Anne Bonny, what other woman pirate was known to wear men's garb aboard ship? Russilla Russ.
Pantaloons Patty.
Alfhild Andrew.
Frankenfurter?
I'm going to give you half credit on that one just because it's clever and Halloween was just a few days ago. But it is, in fact, Mary Reed, which makes you both wrong. Issue number 2. Streaming anything, but in this context, games, has gone from a strange dream to a standard marketing technique in only a few short years. Essential to this new media explosion is, of course, the streaming giant YouTube. The service was created by Chad Hurley, Steve Chen, and Yawed Karim in February 2005. Question. What company did these three men work for before they founded YouTube? Virgin Anywhere Russ.
Google.
Acorn Andrew.
Radio Shack.
Again, I'm going to give you partial credit for Radio Shack because I just finished watching Stranger Things 2. However, you are both wrong, and it was PayPal. They went from PayPal to YouTube, which was then bought by
Radio Shack.
By Radio.
Yes. Sure.
Number 3.
Why not?
The modern-day island of Santorini is the largest island in an archipelago that is essentially all that remains after an enormous volcanic eruption destroyed the earliest settlements on a formerly single island and created the current geological caldera. A giant central rectangular lagoon is surrounded by 300-meter-high steep cliffs on 3 sides. The city of Fira clings to the top of that cliff, looking out over the water. Question. What ancient civilization is believed by many historians to have been destroyed by the eruption that shattered modern-day Santorini? Rhodey Russ.
Atlantis.
Alcibiades Andrew.
Atlantorp.
Nice.
That one I'm going to actually take away 2 half credits for.
No.
Russ gets partial credit because many people do believe that the destruction of Santorini was the basis of the Atlantis legend. However, I'm going to still both call you wrong. It was the Minoan Empire of Crete, 68 miles away, which they believe was destroyed in part by a tsunami caused by the explosion. Issue number 4. Although some rumors have often claimed that Rhode Island can be warm and balmy in the wintertime, most of the state has a humid continental climate with warm summers and cold winters. The far southern and coastal portions of the state are the broad transition zone into temperate climate or subtropical climates with hot summers and cool winters with a mix of rain and snow. The highest temperature ever recorded in Rhode Island was 104 degrees on August 2nd, 1975. Question. What is the lowest recorded temperature, and what year was it recorded? Raw Russ.
I'm going to go with the 1920 and -15.
Arctic
no,
Andrew.
30.
Ooh, -30. Oh, that made all the difference, Russ. Good job. Arctic Andrew.
I'm going to go with geological caldera.
And Again, I'm taking away. Now you're in the negative.
No.
Which makes Russ wrong in the traditional sense and Andrew wrong in so many more ways. The lowest recorded temperature ever in Rhode Island was negative 23 degrees, which makes Russ close on February 5th, 1996. 96. That's very recent. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for listening and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by
Battle Foam, protecting your army so you don't have to.
And the War Store, bringing the war to your door since 1999, and that is for a decade or more.
Hello.
Oh,
Hey-oh.
Hey, welcome to episode 225 of the D6 Generation. I'm Russ Wakeland.
Craig Lunt.
And I am Andrew Hartland.
Hey, Andrew, welcome to the show. It's great to have you back on here. Andrew, do you still go by Hacksaw? Do you still use that term?
It hasn't come up very often, but whenever somebody's riffing on, like, when I was playing games, there was a hacksaw, and he was really cool. So I allow it to slide
So
by.
are you like,
while.
hey, just so you know, I'm that guy. That was me. I was the cool one. You ever try that line?
I have not done that in a long time.
Or do you just
There
commiserate and go, yeah, that guy was awesome. I wish I could meet him again.
Is there a bar with guys who with well-known retired gamer tags like all hang out?
Right.
That would be cool. I did get put into a Mount Rushmore of War Machine on Twitter last week.
Cool.
What's the URL for the Mount Rushmore of Twitter? Of War Machine on Twitter.
Hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
We'll look that up. So for those listening, of course, Andrew's been on the show before. He, of course, is one of the many folks behind Captain Con, coming up in a few short months here, up in February in Providence, Rhode Island. No, not Providence. It's in Rhode Island, though. One of those little states south of us at some point.
Right.
We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But while Andrew's looking up that site, we do have a couple things you want to wrap up here. First of all, Craig, we are just wrapping up our Stronghold Games contest, which ended on Halloween, right?
Yeah.
We got all those great entries. We're pouring through them now. The little minions, we have several. The little minions are pouring through them now, listening to them, preparing them for us to listen to them. We're going to put them together for the next episode. So they won't be in this episode, but 226, we're going to play the entries, and we'll pick a winner, and then we'll let Mr. Bonacore know, and of course he will send out the fabulous prizes. Sound good?
Yes.
Yes. Now, Andrew, are you still with us while you're looking that up?
Yes, I'm here.
Because I did want to ask you, do you remember, we also recorded a Lost Chapter. Do you remember what we talked about in the Lost Chapter?
I do. It was basically how people with families and real lives can live vicariously through the gaming world at large.
Yes, it was watching streaming board games, right? Which is apparently a thing.
In particular.
Now. Yeah. So I thought that was a really fascinating conversation. I really even thought about that, and Andrew was like, you know what? We're seeing in Dunkin' Donuts. Mm-hmm. And so we talked about that. It was a fantastic conversation. Now, Craig, if people want to listen to that conversation or other Lost Chapters, what would they do?
They would go to our website, and they would that would be the d6generation.com, and they would look on the right-hand side, and there's a really cool Patreon logo, and you would click on the Patreon logo. It would bring you to our Patreon page, which then has a video that you should skip over, and then just read quickly what Patreon is all about. And basically what it is you kick a little tip into the tip jar to support the show and keep it going and keep the lights on and whatnot. And keep doors open, basically, to let people keep people talking to us. And for that, there's a couple different things. But if you pledge for $2 an episode, you get the entire vast library of the Lost Chapters unlocked to you in a moment in a massive Indiana Jones-esque special effects extravaganza.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the extravaganza, but you definitely
or maybe
get it all.
not.
Right,
Your
exactly.
mileage may vary.
Right. So check that out. We would really appreciate it. So
indeed.
So Craig, what's the time now for?
Achievements in gaming.
It is, and achievements is brought to us, of course, by all of our fine friends at Patreon. Now, before we jump into achievements here, Andrew, did you find as an achievement? Did you find the link to the Mount Rushmore of War Machine people?
I did. I just dropped it into the Skype
That's
chat.
what that sound was.
Oh, there we go. The Skype chat has a note. Let's see here. It says, "Oh, I see the picture. That is epic. We got to tweet this out. We'll have to tweet this out during. I recognize everyone in the picture. That's fantastic. That is awesome. We're gonna have to send that picture out.
Norbert.
So keep an eye on the Twitter feed. By the time you see this, it'll already have been out. Look for hashtag. I'll put a hashtag in there. Like, let me write it down so I won't forget. It'll be like hashtag WM Rushmore, right, for War Machine Rushmore.
There you go.
How's that? Okay, we'll tweet that out so you can search for the hashtag and find that picture. With Andrew is in the far left-hand side. What president are you replacing there, Andrew?
Isn't that Washington?
I think that is Washington,
I think it is.
but I must say, I actually have hair again now, so...
Oh, you have longer hair. This is a while ago, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. That was, I don't know when that was, but I do have hair again.
Excellent.
And now, I don't recognize the third man in from the left there. So who are all these people?
Okay, so you have myself on the left. You have Norbert Brunhuber.
Yeah.
You have Carl Morgan. He's the War Machine Weekend organizer.
Yeah.
And then you have Michael Stubbs. Who's,
of course, Stubbs.
I don't know why he's up there.
Because he's Stubbs.
He's kind of just a cranky old man, but I guess...
Now, he used to be a happy-go-lucky.
Aren't we all?
Our first event ever, he was just a happy-go-lucky guy that spilled gin all over our Uncharted Seas table and was apologizing for it for about 5 years.
I do remember that. I do.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, I'd forgotten about that.
Stubbs. And he's everywhere. He's still everywhere. But you're right. Sure. He's a little crankier than he used to be. But it's always good to see him.
It is. Excellent. Well, so now back to achievements already in progress.
Now back to the achievements already in progress.
So, Andrew, what have you been playing lately, sir?
Well, as a family man, I do not have a lot of gaming time, but I try my best. So in preparation for our meeting this week, I have been playing a lot of Santorini, which is a great family board game. I think we're going to talk about that later.
We are.
And that is a very cool game. I've also been playing with my kids a game called Dragonwood.
Ooh, what's that like?
Which it's a card game which basically fools kids into learning probability and statistics.
Ah, the old learning stuff where you don't expect it trick. I love those.
It's always good to fool kids.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about that game is that, it's integral to the gameplay that you learn, a little bit about probability. It is also useful if you ever have to take a course that uses that material. And as we all know, that is one of the baseline skills for gamers across multiple genres.
It is.
So
exactly.
I'm very happy.
Yeah. That's true.
How good is this thing I'm about to do is what it tries to tell.
What are my odds of success here? Should I boost my my attack now or wait till later?
Exactly.
Exactly right. Good stuff.
So that's been good. I've always been watching a lot of streaming, a variety of things from. I was watching what are those guys called? The British miniature gamers that have their own website and everything. What are those guys called?
I don't know.
British miniature gamers that have a website.
Is it
That's
Beasts
quite a few
of War?
of them.
Yeah, Beasts of War. I've been watching
Look
them.
at that.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been watching them play some new 40K on Twitch. I've also been watching a lot of random strangers play Dungeons and Dragons, which is like my dirty little secret pleasure right now. I guess it's not so secret anymore.
Well.
It's like you used to have to just assume that there were nerds in their basement and then make fun of them. But I was a nerd, so I was in there, so I knew it was a thing. But even if you were a bully who never got to make fun of those nerds, you can now get on Twitch chat and make fun of them today.
Oh, sounds good.
That's actually the opposite of what I would do, but it's just crazy that you can do that. And so I'm in a lot of D&D channels watching that stuff go down. And I've also been doing a lot of online gaming. I play a lot of XCOM. Have you guys ever played XCOM 2?
XCOM's fantastic. Yeah, very good.
I finally managed to finish XCOM 2 War of the Chosen, which is a brand new $30 expansion, and it's worth every penny.
Oh, so it's worth it. I've been trying to decide. I did love the first, the out of the box experience. So
yeah, it totally revolutionizes the gameplay, and I highly recommend it. And then in my spare time, where I only have a little bit of chunks of gaming time, I've been playing some card games. I've been playing, what's it called? Gwent, which is the Witcher card game, which is now a standalone game. Really great artwork. And I'm looking forward to the end of the month when there's going to be a general invite, I believe, to the open beta of Magic the Gathering Online. Its new client called Arena. I've not played Magic in probably, I don't know now. What is it? How old am I? Probably like, it's probably like,
Andrew.
Andrew, I get the impression you're having a rough day.
It's probably been 20 years since I've played Magic in any way, shape, or form. But this is a new, new entry point that they're going to put together that is a free-to-play experience, so that might be interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. Besides that, just...
Well, that's a great haul, though.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, looking for games.
You're gonna blow Russ away, that's for sure.
Okay.
Probably the both of us.
I'll sit back and pass the ball to you guys.
All right, Craig, what have you been playing, man?
So it's no surprise and no secret that I have been carefully watching the Song of Ice and Fire Kickstarter that ended in quite a while ago, but now the Pledge Manager is ending within the week, actually. And I still have the option, and I still don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I'm afraid I'm going to get the minimum stuff because the models are awesome. But it got me massively into the Game of Thrones mindset, and a little bit on that later. But at the same time, I'm all in, I think, almost all in. The role-playing game doesn't really call to me, but the Joan of Arc Kickstarter by Mythic Games looks just amazing, and we played it at Gen Con, and it was definitely my game of the entire convention. And it's actually 16 millimeters, so it's heroic 15 millimeter, but it's very much small. So I was thinking along these small. It's hex based. It looks great, and Game of Thrones all at the same time. And then I thought, oh my God, there's a game already that has all that stuff in it. So I broke open Battles of Westeros by Fantasy Flight that I got probably like 7 or 8 years ago.
Right.
And I played that a couple times. And it's a lot of fun.
It is a
and
good
I
game.
don't understand. And I think the problem was, one, the quality of the models is not great.
Right.
And two, they really didn't come out with a lot to support it. So you had the starter box came out, and that was Stark versus Lannister, and then the Lannister booster box came out, expansion box came out at the same time, and then there was nothing for months.
Right.
And I thought that really killed the momentum for it. I remember once, I had Reese play. We'll talk about this a little bit later too. Reese and I played using the basic rules. We played the intro scenario, and through that I remembered, oh my God, I've played this intro scenario about 100 times, because that's like, I would introduce it to new people, and we would always play the intro scenario. So then on Tuesday I begged and pleaded, and our friend Dave came through, and we played the next mission. So I've played 2 scenarios of that recently, and it's a really fun game, to the point where I have already ordered the Stark expansion, and I'm looking at all the other expansions, because you can get them for relatively cheap if you know where to look at this point online, because the game's been dead for about 5 years now.
Right.
So played that and really enjoyed it, and read the crap out of the rule book, and had all the cards with me, and so I was kind of living in that space for about a week. And played a bunch of Santorini, not just with Reese, because that was I bought it for him at Gen Con, but I thought, well, I want to get what is this like when you play with grown-ups, because we're going to talk about that later in the show. So I played a bunch with Karen also. So I played a lot of Santorini. Other than that, though, I didn't play anything else.
Well, that's good. That's good. Unfortunately for me, I've been traveling a lot for work.
Yes, you have.
And I had a lot going on. And I ran, though, into an unusual situation where my work ran into gaming in a very abstracted way.
That's weird.
So long-time listeners will know that I work at a software company, and they do have like a lunchtime board gaming thing, and everybody plays board games. I very rarely, unfortunately, ironically, I think this is, get to participate in that, because I'm always doing other things and running around. But so we were traveling, and we had 2 big things going on. Our user conference going on, and then we had a big meeting with our teams out in California. And because both these things were near each other, we decided not to fly, and they were like only a day apart, fly all the way back to the East Coast. We decided to do one and then do the other, and there was a day between that had downtime. And so as a group, our CEO was like, why don't we take a day off? We'll go out and we'll just have like a little bus ride. We'll do some fun. We'll just have fun stuff. And so our salesperson's like, yeah, I'll plan everything. So she plans everything, and she's got, way too much stuff for us to eat, way too much stuff for us to drink, adult beverages, all that stuff. And then she breaks out a box of Cards Against Humanity, the core set, and the green.
At work?
Wait. Well, we're not technically at work. So at this point, we are on a day off, right? So it's Saturday, we're day off, and we're driving around. So we're not at work. It's just the work people are there. Does it make sense?
Uh-huh.
And so we're all there on the bus. She breaks that out, and then she breaks out the green box, and then she breaks out the geek box. Like, she's got it all. She's like, Russ, I know you're a geek, so here's this, and then she's like, and here's the green box. It was like just crazy, just like everything. And we start playing, and it was very surreal because it was hilarious. Everybody took it all the right way, but it was not a normal group of folks I would do that with. So it was like it was funny. It was awesome. Like, it broke down all the barriers. We just it took all the work barriers away. We were just playing and just laughing hilariously and doing stupid stuff. So the game worked as it was intended. And the best part was our head of HR was also sitting there. So every time something inappropriate came out, we're just like, she's like, this is all off the clock, so I don't know what's happening right now. It was hilarious. It was pretty funny. So I had a really good time with that. I haven't played Cards Against Humanity with all the expansions before, but she did an interesting technique, and I don't know if this is what you're supposed to do, but it worked really well, which is when you have several different expansions, what we did not do was sort of play with one and then reset the game. All she would do is, like, in Cards Against Humanity, one person reads the black card, and then everybody throws in one of the other cards, and then the person who has had the black card reads all of them and picks one that they think is the funniest or whatever, and the person gets the point, right? And then you draw new cards into your hand, one each person. And what she would just do is, after a round like that, instead of resetting the score or anything, she would just draw the new cards that come from different decks. So it was just like we were intermingling everything as we played. So the first round, everybody was dealt from the standard set, and then everybody was refilled from the green box, and then all of a sudden refilled from the geek box. It was a neat way to do it because it just sort of changed and shifted the tone and intermingled the cards in pretty fun ways. So that game is wildly inappropriate, but also pretty freaking funny. So that was Cards Against Humanity.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, well, it does.
Again.
You need adult beverages.
It's
definitely
very. It's also very dependent upon the group.
Yes, it did work for
alcohol is a must.
Yes, that was part of the plan. So the alcohol was part of the plan, and that definitely helps. It's a great drinking game.
At work.
Well, not at work, with your colleagues when you're off work.
Okay.
This is an important distintion. It's not like probably sitting there at work doing it.
Sounds like a legal nicety. That's what it sounds like to me.
I just did my annual mandatory harassment training.
Yes.
And they told us that it's not how I feel about how something was said.
Right.
It's how the person who listened to it.
That's why the head of HR was in there making sure that everybody was doing fine.
Oh, yes.
Right.
You're only allowed to play Cards Against Humanity in a business environment if the head of HR is there.
Exactly.
And has had at least one adult beverage.
That's right.
Right.
So that she's complicit.
Exactly. That's how these things work. So that was pretty hilarious. So that was really pretty funny. Not the game I would have expected in that situation, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
What about modeling? Andrew, have you gotten any miniature painting or assembly or anything in lately?
I have a tray full of miniatures on a shelf in my bedroom that I bump into at least once a week, and I shed a tear from my old life.
You apologize to them when you bump into them?
Exactly. It's like,
when was the last time you painted a model? It's been that long?
Oh, man. It's been...
Oh, wow.
It's probably been 5 years.
Wow. Oh, ouch. Oh, man.
Someday I'll get back into the fold.
A moment of silence for Hacksaw. Here we go.
No kidding, huh? Right. Lo, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, we should be quiet about that. You might lose your face on Rushmore for that kind of stuff.
That's true. Yeah.
It's crumbling away.
It's crumbling. Craig, how about yourself?
Well, let's see. I've had a lot going on, and it's really taken a toll on my modeling time, but I've done more than you two.
Yeah.
I was for a while still plucking away at a much larger Dakan army for Rune Wars than Russ knows that I have. Sadly, the model there's 4 different poses for the infantry and 2 different poses for the cavalry, and I have a lot of cavalry, and I've got them all primed and zenithal coat for the first zenithal coat, and then I just I've ground down just because there's so many of them and they're so samey that I just couldn't. The inspiration, and I have that really nice undead Wakar's Legion army already, so that kind of slowly ground down. And then when I was digging through my Battles of Westeros stuff, I found that I had actually bought the Wardens of the West expansion but not painted it. So I was all excited. So I've been painting that up. And I was also excited because clearly when I primed the original box models, I used regular primer and their board game pieces, so they came out all sticky and tacky.
Yeah.
And even though they're all painted, they're still sticky and tacky. Yeah, and they look like they were painted by me when I was 12 with Tester's glossy paints, because the spray primer on those board game quality minis just stinks. But then apparently between priming those and priming the Wardens of the West models, I had picked up on something that worked much better. I don't even remember what. I mean, it was like 7 or 8 years ago. I don't even remember what brand it was, but the priming for the Lannister models from the expansion was really solid and nice and dry, and so I'm really enjoying painting those up. So that is what I have been doing with my modeling time.
Yeah, me, unfortunately, zero. I've had so much travel last couple of weeks, I've got nothing in, which is sad because my elves from Rune Wars are over here staring at me, giving me the evil eye, so I got to get back to it.
I'm thinking Rune Wars because I've done all the terrain now.
Yeah, I'm in.
Might be something we want to think about for Captain Con.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Ooh, that'd be fun.
Because it will be that'll get you to paint up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
I've got a bunch of stuff, and we've got all the terrain that, if I do say so myself, you can check Twitter if you have any doubts. Looks pretty damn cool.
It looks awesome. I think that would be fun. I would be totally into that.
I think that'd be a good idea.
What about other stuff? So Andrew, what about any good geeky shows you're watching, books you're reading, comics? What about that stuff?
Sure. So I just finished Stranger Things 2. I binged that last weekend.
No spoilers.
What'd you think?
No spoilers.
I loved it. I really loved it.
Yes, I loved it.
I mean, if nothing, even if you didn't love the story, which I did, there's just so much cultural
the nostalgia.
Stuff. Exactly. It hits me right in the teenage years. It's just yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Right.
I do a little math every time I watch an episode, and I'm always like, I was 1 year older than these guys.
Right.
Exactly.
To age myself, but that's I'm right there where they were, with all the same toys and all the same games, and so yeah. But
and I've also,
but it's happy coincidence that on top of that, it's an amazing story with amazing characters. So.
Indeed, yeah. And then I've also watched a couple episodes of the Beyond Stranger Things, which is the kind of, they bring in the cast and talk about little things here and there. And that's okay. I'm waiting for a little bit more detail in some of the episodes, but you just get to know the cast, and it's a bunch of kids, so they're just being goofy, but that's fun too.
I thought I watched the first one, and I thought the funniest thing was when the little kid who plays one of the leads was like, well, then in this season we were like more grown up, so we didn't play D&D, and the brothers who came up with the whole idea and are in charge of the whole series, one of them seems like he's a grumpy old man, even though I think he's only like 30.
Right.
But so the kid was like, yeah, well, we're more mature in this season, so we're not playing. And he was like, well, grown-ups can play D&D. And they got into a little fight. The kid was like, no, I know, no. I mean, I don't know what you're saying. Like, there's no reason a grown-up can't play D. And it was like this little thing. It was funny.
I'm glad he was defending the honor of Dungeons and Dragons.
He clearly was.
That was great. There's a line in very early on, like very first episode of the second season, when they're like, so what do you think he's doing? Oh, I think he has true sight. And he starts quoting like, what's true sight? He's like, oh yeah, because it allows you to see into the ethereal plane from the prime material plane. He's like rattling off like the spell description almost exactly. And they're all looking at him like, oh yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah. And awesome. It made perfect sense to them.
Right, it makes perfect sense.
I love that through the whole thing they're constantly talking about their party.
Yes, it's a party. Yep, exactly. That's awesome. So, what else, Andrew?
Let's see. As far as books, much like my limited time for gaming, I also have limited time for reading, aka if I am in bed and I could read, I would probably just pass out. So I've been sticking to the Audible routine. Mm-hmm. I've got probably about a 25-minute commute on an average day, so I listen to about 25 minutes of audiobooks to and from work, and I've been listening to the Witcher novels.
Oh, those are good.
Those are really, really interesting books. I mean, there's a couple of collections of short stories which are pretty disconnected, but it gives you some background.
And how good is that voice actor, too? The narrator on The Witcher book is awesome.
He's phenomenal.
Really, really good. I think it's Oliver Wyman.
Yeah, he nails
it. Is that right? He is so talented. I mean, it is amazing the length of time that those books sat before they got picked up in the American publishing world. I think they were published originally in like 1995
in the 90s or something. Yeah.
And then just recently got the American publishers' attention.
Thanks to the video game. It was the video game's success that brought the books to America.
Right.
Which is a shame it took them so long because they are fantastic books.
Yes. So I'm in about the middle of the main series now. I'm in the book called Baptism of Fire.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's just so many great characters. I mean, the thing about this series is the author can get you invested in a character in 10 minutes.
Yep.
He does such a great job of character development, and just the situational nuance of pulling you in is just consistently there. Even for, the good, the bad, the ugly characters, it doesn't matter. You're just you have a bone to pick with some, and you love others, and other ones you're just curious about. There's no throwaway character in that entire series, which is amazing because it's a cast of probably hundreds.
Right.
So that has been amazing. And I've also been watching The Gifted on Fox.
How is that?
What are you thinking?
It's doing okay. I mean, it is in its infancy. It is probably, I think, 5 or 6 episodes in right now, and they are taking a good pace with it. Slowly introducing new characters, giving you little touches of character development on the core cast, and nothing has gone completely sideways yet. There's a human element even to the enemy, which is Sentinel Services, which is good. So, I mean, it feels like a comic, which is good.
Yeah.
Because you're getting very episodic development, and it feels like it's going somewhere, which is good. So I'm enjoying it. So I'd recommend it. Not everybody may love it, but I like it. And let's see, anything else? Well, I'm going to go see Thor Ragnarok tomorrow. That should be fun.
Me too. I've not seen it yet.
I think you're both going to be happy.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
Is that a good segue, Craig? Did you see Thor?
Yes, we could segue that. Yes, I did. I like I said, my this last month has been crazy ridiculous, and occasionally what I do when that happens is I just yank about a small chunk of time away from everything else and say, you guys are just gonna have to deal with the world for about 2 or 3 hours. And I did that the day that Thor came out, and I went and saw it in the afternoon, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to spoil anything. I will tell you that without a doubt, the trailers for Thor Ragnarok have more digital red herrings, which I was super excited about, than any series of marketing I've ever seen for a movie. So many of the things you think you know going in, just from the basic trailers, never mind like looking for anything else. So many of the things you think you know are completely wrong, which I thought was awesome. Yeah.
Curveball marketing.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, those trailers have been awesome. And they've like these amazing scenes, and what they've done is they've digitally removed or added things to the people in the scenes, or they've completely changed the background and where the scenes are taking place. So you have, other than a few key plot points, you have no idea really what's going on when you walk into that
cool
movie, which is really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So sort of like Blade Runner 2049, except with difference.
Kind of like that, but on purpose. The only I wish they had done that with the. Well, no, I won't even say that. Never mind. There's one thing I wish I hadn't known going in that you can tell from the previews, but yeah, I like every time one of those things came up, and I was like, wait a minute, that was tricky. wait a minute, I thought he had a tricky, and it was just like it was a constant, almost like a fun little Easter egg reveal, rolling reveal as the whole show went forward. It was really neat.
I can't wait.
So I watched that. I am, as I said, I'm on a once again Game of Thrones kick. So I'm listening to the books again, listening to Clash of Kings right now. And I have to keep going back. Like, if you just take the first 3 books, like the promise here is of a new classic for a whole new generation. And then it's such a shame that, in my opinion, things start to fall apart in book 4 and then continue to disintegrate into book 5.
You know what's funny, Craig? You know what is really funny? I remember having this conversation with you when book 4 first came out.
Yeah.
And then I think book 5 took how many years? But it feels like we've had this same conversation for 5 years. And
it is. Probably more than that.
Sad times.
Yeah.
Yep. Sad times. But on the plus side, we have a whole TV.
We have this whole TV show, which
that
is awesome.
Which
is
visual
not
classic.
falling apart and is actually telling the story in a cleaner way.
So we'll take what we can get here.
Yeah, exactly. So and I'm only on Clash of Kings, which is book 2, so that means I'm still really thoroughly enjoying everything. And just really appreciating all of the not the Easter eggs, but the little hints and the foreshadowings that are put in like books and books in advance. So the whole thing is so well crafted in the early time, but in those early 3 books. Anyway, TV, Stranger Things, we've already mentioned that, and Russ hasn't seen enough of it, and we don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I just thought it was awesome. Added a bunch of new stuff, so it's not just the same story rehashed from the first season. Everything is bigger, and clearly the budget was bigger, and not that there was anything wrong with the budget in the first season, but I just loved everything about it. There wasn't one false note that was struck. The world is more expanded by the end of the season. You know more about what's going on and other people that are in it. I just thought it was great. And then I see another overlap, Russ, with the Orville, and in particular episode 7, which I thought was...
Did you enjoy episode 7?
As the anti-social social media person that I am, I loved it.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah.
But I
have not watched that at all.
Oh, I think you're missing out.
You are. Okay. I tweeted this after I did it, and I ironically, and also Facebooked it. But the premise of the episode, and this is not a spoiler because this doesn't reveal the plot; it just reveals the premise. It's so the Orville, Andrew, what they've done with the Orville, which is really impressive, is, the original series of Star Trek commented on social issues under the air cover of its sci-fi, right? So if you remember, they had that episode where the one half of the society was black on the left and white on the right, and the other half was white on the left and black on the right, and they would fight over just which side was better based on their color. Or
yes, I remember Star Trek.
Right,
yes.
Right, you know that. But what I'm saying is, like, for younger listeners, Andrew, I know you.
Oh, okay.
Right.
He's setting the tone.
Right. So it was social commentary, right? It was social. It was campy. It was sci-fi, but it was still social commentary. So what they've done with the Orville is, they've got it under double air cover of sci-fi, campy sci-fi, and parody of campy sci-fi, but the issues they attack or discuss or make you think about are really interesting, and it's very much and I tweeted that if good sci-fi makes you think about our society, Orville episode 7 is one of the best pieces of sci-fi done in a long time because it really gets you thinking. And when I tweeted that, someone told me there was an episode of the Black Mirror, Craig, that was similar to this.
Yeah, but you know what? The first episode of the Black Mirror was so not this that I wouldn't know, and I feel totally fine about myself not watching any more of the Black Mirror.
Yeah, the Black Mirror I couldn't get past episode.
Come on.
Now, so Andrew, you like the Black Mirror?
I'm a big fan of the Black Mirror.
Well,
all right.
God bless you, sir.
All right,
God
I'll have to try.
bless
Maybe it's
you.
too dark, but I will say. But
it was very dark.
Yeah, it was a great episode. Basically, it was the idea that what would happen if society were totally ruled by pure democracy, essentially, by just you thumbs up and thumbs down everything, and it's in the court of public opinion whether or not
there is a
gets
Black
executed or not.
Mirror.
Yeah,
that's very similar. So that is a interesting concept.
But it was but they've had other ones too. They had a really good one about gender and all these interesting things. So it's a really good series. Also really funny. I like it.
I like it because it had to have been a double a bait and switch to Fox because it was like okay, Seth MacFarlane, you can make another funny show. Just promise it's funny. And he was like, absolutely. It's just got to be like Star Trek, making fun of Star Trek. And instead, it's, in my opinion, better than Star Trek.
It's more Star Trek,
at least the
than Star
recent
Trek.
iterations.
Yes, I would agree.
And it's taking itself seriously enough that it's really something you can get emotionally invested in, while at the same time still being very funny.
Yes.
So I think
now I am intrigued.
Yes, check it out.
I would. I'm very impressed, very happy, and enjoying it immensely. And then finally, I don't know where to plug this, so I'm just going to plug this here. The local Cub Scout groups have these things where they go out once a year. They go to different places where you can sleep, and it's really cool. And last year, listeners will remember that I couldn't go because it was during the play week. But my wife and Reese went to the Massachusetts, the Museum of Science, and slept under the T-Rex and had a grand old time. And I missed out. This year, this sleepover was at the USS Massachusetts at Battleship Cove. And I actually got to sleep on a World War II battleship, which was awesome. And Reese was like just enthralled and loved it. And we watched, you remember those the dogfight TV show that had the computer simulation of the aerial battles, and then in the second season they did a few naval battles.
Yep.
So I went on and I bought all of the episodes that had naval battles before we went, because I wanted him to see what battleships were. And he, like, all of his love from the Titanic has now been completely shifted to battleships, which I think is awesome. And in fact, a listener, I think, emailed me that had happened to his son. And it was just amazing. It was awesome. The USS Massachusetts was a great ship with an amazingly cool story. Fought in 33 battles, never lost a single crew person in battle. And it was just awesome to be on it. And we had full reign of this entire battleship for the whole weekend. And at Battleship Cove, there's also a submarine and there's a destroyer, the Joe P. Kennedy Jr., which is actually a historical ship that had some significance during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And then there's a Russian missile frigate that we bought from the East Germans when Germany combined, and it was used for training and to sort of reverse engineer a bunch of the aspects that the Soviets were using in their ship design. And then when they didn't have anything to do with it, they brought it to Battleship Cove. So we were all over that. And the ship, you can just walk all over all of them. It was just awesome. It was a really, really cool experience. So that was me for my that was the other thing I did. So what about you, Russ?
It was my birthday recently, and I did get an Xbox.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. I did get an Xbox One X, which I'm really excited about. So listeners will know that earlier this year, the girls we finally got a 4K television in the house, and so we had a PS4 Pro, and now we've got an Xbox One X, and I can tell the difference. So I can definitely see 4K gaming. You can tell. So I'm really playing with that, having a lot of fun with that. Like I can tell, I was playing Shadow of War of Mordor on the regular Xbox, and I just flipped over to the Xbox One X, and you can really, really see the difference. So I'm really happy with that. Also, still enjoying Updraft by Fran Wild. It's in the Bone universe. These people that live in these sort of like bone towers that grow up out of the clouds, and they fly around with sort of like steampunk style goggles and wings. That's really interesting. Also, let's see. So we're in the final season of Parks and Rec. My family's been binge watching this show now for, I don't know, my girls and I watch it together whenever Nicole travels. And I think we're on like, I don't know, there were 7 seasons, like 20 episodes a season, so it's taken us a while, but we're almost through. And we're going to be very sad when we're done, because that show is so funny. And I don't know how I missed it. I never saw it when it was, live or popular, but great show, and I can certainly understand now why people liked it so much. Dirk Gently, still fantastic. Season 2 is great.
Yeah, I gotta watch that.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, Orville got renewed. They mentioned, I just saw that come out. So
did you notice what happened like 3 hours after the announcement of Orville getting renewed happened?
No, what happened?
They announced that they were going to be renewing the new Star Trek.
Oh, Discovery? Yeah.
They were like, oh, no, us too.
Right. I wonder
Has anybody watched? Have you guys watched that?
I have, and I like it. I'm enjoying. I mean, it's darker. I like it. I don't like the Klingons. I think they screwed up the Klingons. I just don't like. I don't find them because they're always speaking in Klingon, the actors can't really act because they got to pronounce these words that the human tongue wasn't really designed to pronounce. So it's kind of weird. I do like the characters in it though, and it's gotten better as it's been going. So I still have hope for it, but I don't find it as interesting as Orville, for example. And I think it's got a problem because they're only allowing you to see it on the CBS streaming thing, which I think is a huge mistake. And so if they don't figure that out soon.
That's the only reason I haven't watched it yet.
Right.
You're right. The commercials look awesome, and every time they catch me. Every time I see the beginning of one of the commercials, I'm like, I've got to. Oh no, I'm not, because I'm already paying. I as many listeners know, Karen and I have disconnected from the cable. We followed Russ down out into the wilds. So I'm already paying for these other streaming services, and I'm just not going to pay for one.
Why would you?
I'm not a Trekker, so like on the strength of a Star Trek show, I'm not going to pay extra money every month.
Now, do you buy some episodes onesie twosie off of different services though?
I do occasionally.
Right.
Yeah.
So you would have. So here's the thing: if they would just sell it through like one of the other services, like pick one. You might. The first one could have been free. And then you might pay for one or two and get hooked, because it's like, well, it's $2 here, $2 there, and you're not locked in, as opposed to, it's a different feeling.
Or $15 for the whole season or whatever.
Just drop it.
$5 a month.
Yeah, it's more than that. I think it's 10.
Is it really?
Yeah. I can't remember. Well, it's too much.
That's ludicrous. Yeah. That's actually CBS does not have a good enough stuff that's only available through streaming.
It might be 5, but 10 with no commercials or something. I don't know. It's
either one of those is dumb, but 10 is just ridiculous.
So, and then just to wrap it up quick with video games, I've got still enjoying Cuphead. My daughter and I, my oldest daughter and I are playing that. Super hard, super fun. Still enjoying Divinity Original Sin. Oh no, Original, whatever it's called. I think it's Divinity Original Sin 2, the RPG. That's been fantastic, and Shadow War, and so I've been having a lot of fun with that stuff as well. So keeping busy. Any other achievements we need to talk about? Is that it?
That's it for me.
All right.
George R. Martin dead yet?
Wow. That just happened. Wow. Nice way to take this out, Andrew.
And we take a sharp right turn into darkness.
And now, in an attempt to bring a small amount of dignity and decorum to this otherwise base form of entertainment, and I use the term loosely, I am proud to present... Oh, get on with it. It's time for App of the Ep. Seriously, Wakeland, I used to have my own segment, and now I'm relegating to announcing this pap. Hey, you're lucky we still use you. Hey, welcome back to another App of the Ep. This time around, I want to talk about something that's, well, it's not a game at all, actually, but I'm finding it very handy. It's something I actually found for work, but I think it's also super fun for podcasters or actually anyone who wants to see how some new hotness on social media is doing. And this little app is called TweetRoot. One word, TweetRoot, like Twitter, tweet, and the word root. And this little app essentially creates, it doesn't essentially, it does create pretty much instant word clouds for any hashtag or Twitter username out there. And what I find really powerful about this, and so I've been doing a lot of work in my business, my product management life around narrative data and how do you really gain insights into data that is formatted in the way people talk. So, short stories or short bursts of sentences, very much like tweets. And what I like about the concept of a word cloud is it's a great way to really understand, sort of, without getting into all kinds of great cognitive AI or on sentiment analysis or anything fancy, it's a great way to really understand what's going on around a particular thing. So, for example, earlier, I typed in, at the D6 generation and saw all the kind of words in a word clouds. Words appear larger when they're used more often, and they appear maybe in different colors based on that. So one of the things I did that was kind of fun is I put in a hashtag Stranger Things. So I'm going to put in Stranger Things here and see what people are saying about the new Stranger Things series. See if it's really doing well. So it's a great way, instead of having to go, look for the Stranger Things hashtag and try to read through the last few tweets, this thing analyzes the past 1,000 or so tweets and gives you back some words. And so you see things like good, season, love, best. And I'm really thinking, wow, people are really liking this show. If the words like loved and better and wow are all popping up, then it must really be pretty good. It's probably worth jumping in. The word poor does appear pretty smally. Smally, that's not even a word. Pretty tiny. But it looks like it's doing pretty well. So you can pick your favorite word. Maybe you can pick your, put in Gen Con 50, see what people are saying about that. Put in PAX Unplugged, see what people are saying about that in sort of an easy to see cloud. It's really a pretty fun little toy to play with. And also, if you're trying to track your favorite podcast, or maybe you're launching a hashtag yourself and trying to see what the tracking is, it's a really handy way to do that. And then once you get your word cloud, it allows you to do cool things like change its colors, take a screen capture, and then, of course, once you have an image of it, you can then put it out on your own social media and say, look what people are saying about the hashtag we launched, or look what people are saying about Gen Con 50, or whatever. So it's a pretty cool little feature, and that is TweetRoot on iOS.
Thank you for listening to another scintillating edition of App of the App, a segment in which,
hey, less of that, more just getting on with the show.
Seriously, Wakeland, you are like school in summer. No class. Hey, welcome back. And of course, since Andrew here is on the show, or is on the show here, he's somewhere.
He is both here and on the show.
Virtually. Andrew, we'd love to chat with you more about Captain Con coming up here. Now, when is Captain Con 2018 scheduled? How close is this thing getting to be?
All right, so Captain Con 2018 is February 2nd through the 4th, and that is at our location that we've been at the last few years, the Crown Plaza in Warwick, Rhode Island. The weather is always great that time of year. No chance of snow at all.
Of course not.
None at all.
No, none ever.
You could come in shorts and you'd be just fine.
Yes.
Yep.
We are, of course, lying. But
the trade winds, I think, is what makes it for all the no snow and palm trees.
Exactly.
So Andrew, for first-time listeners, folks who are not familiar with Captain Con, or maybe they've never been, can you describe what's sort of the elevator pitch for Captain Con? What makes it a unique gaming experience?
All right, so just like the words on our website say, Captain Con is dedicated to bringing you the best social and tabletop gaming experiences that a 3-day convention can offer. So the founders of Captain Con, Paul Shoemaker, Craig Caton, and myself, when we sat down and first talked about this show, we said, there's two elements. The one is, what is the content? And number two is, what is the environment? The organizational stuff goes with it, but those are the two key elements for the con. And the social atmosphere is to be one of inclusion. I don't know if you guys saw, we had a nice write-up on a blog that was we put it on our Facebook earlier this year, but the blogger said, these guys are engaged with their audience from the preparation phase into the actual execution of the show, and then after the show, we really rely on our guests to tell us what they want to do. We get to know everybody by name, our vendors, our players, our GMs, etc. We're all getting to know each other during the con. There is very little in the way of cliques. There's really no borders. People are meant to wander all the way across the show and party together and game together, and that's what the social environment is. And it's family friendly too, so that's another part of it that you should keep in mind. And then we are focused on tabletop gaming. There's a lot of different media out there these days that you could go into, but we said, hey, let's keep it focused on the tabletop. Board games, miniature games, role-playing games. Keep the video devices out of it for the most part. We also made a conscious decision to keep somewhat the collectible card games out of it as well, because that adds some tension to the environment, so you won't ever see any truly collectible card games at the show. So that's the general vibe of the show.
Interesting, yeah.
I like it. So, and of course, longtime listeners will know that we've had Andrew and some other members of the crew in Captain Con before and talked about it at the beginning, but now it's been a few years. So how long has Captain Con been going on for?
So this is our 5th year of Captain Con, a bit of a milestone. And if you haven't seen it already, as a result, we've kind of stepped up our art this year. We have Florian Stitz doing our artwork for the main event of our show, which is Captain Connie. That's kind of our mascot and our flag bearer for the show. And he did a great job. You can check out the art online at our website, CaptainCon.com, or on our Facebook. And it was so good that we took some elements from that artwork and we did a new patch, which has an interesting little, it's a plaque on the wall of the bar that Captain Connie is in. And it's a shark's head with a human skull inside the shark's head on the plaque. So that's cool. And then we also did a big coin this year, which has great Captain Connie. We're also going to do a miniature of Captain Connie as well. So 5 years, we're stepping it up.
Nice. So what's been sort of the growth rate of Captain Con over the last 5 years, and how's the con kind of changed and adapted over the past 5 years?
So we always set an annual growth rate of 15%, and we have exceeded that every year. We actually see year-over-year growth of about 20%. I think last year we had about 650 people all in, which is pretty good for fifth year. Coming up here, we'll probably end up seeing, probably just over 700, probably 750, something like that. So that'll be, getting close to the capacity of the building is what we're ended up seeing. We're already adding some of the smaller rooms. But the thing that we want to keep in mind that we've also learned from other shows is that this social environment that we're trying to create, the space itself is very relevant. So if you put people off in sub-basement B, they're not in that environment. They're going to feel separated just by virtue of that distance. So we're keeping that in mind. All of the rooms that we're expanding into this year are still over near the main ballroom and the rotunda, so everybody will be partying together. So that'll be good.
That's awesome. So have you decided? Are you making a conscientious decision that the max capacity of your guys' venue that you like so much is where you're going to stop? Is that or do you grow as large as you can grow and kind of look for other locations as you get bigger, or do you kind of, is there a size that you guys are kind of feel like any larger and won't feel cozy anymore?
No, definitely we want to expand. We have the skills from a business sense. We feel like there is no limit to what we could handle. Obviously, we'd have to staff up if we get significantly larger, but even before the show this year, we've already talked about our 5-year plan and what our growth plan is. And due to the fact that the Crowne Plaza has only a limited amount of space that can maintain the social atmosphere that we're looking for, we've already looked forward and said, if we grow to capacity where the only option would be to separate, 20% of our attendees by the other end of the building and they wouldn't be involved and they'd have to make that huge trek. We're already planning and saying what would be our next step, where would we go next to make that happen. So keeping it open.
Excellent. So what did you guys, what were kind of the learnings? I guess kind of want to ask you two things. Now that you've been doing this for 5 years, it's been really fun to watch, and Craig and I've talked on the show several times that we really enjoy Captain Con. It's just, I prefer, I like the spectacle of the larger cons, but I really like the size where Captain Con is. You feel like you kind of know everybody, and I love the idea that you're kind of always together. It's just a very sort of relaxed and just sort of like you're just in a really large house enjoying some gaming with friends. It's really got that vibe, which I love. What have been some of the things you've learned over the years? What's gone well, and what kind of some things you might want to change?
Well, to be honest, the reason that we did end up graduating what was a standalone tournament for War Machine back when I was young and had less responsibilities, I used to play War Machine a lot. And we had this thing called the New England Team Tournament, which is still a main feature of the show. We still have the New England Team Tournament. It's our feature tournament on Saturday. But, Paul has a master's in business administration. Craig and I were both in the military. We're both worked as professionals, and I still do. Craig is retired now. So we have a lot of management experience. And if you look at the business side of a convention, with a real frugal eye and keep an eye on your bottom line, then it really comes down to just finding the right people. And we've been very lucky in the fact that every major game system that we have been reached out to by, we either had a personal connection with the person from the past who's going to be honcho in that area, whether it be miniatures or board games or role-playing games, or, just through trial and error, we see, hey, how organized are these people when they come to us with a concept? Do they have a full write-up on their event? Do they have all the logistics in mind? Do they have any kind of proof of relevant experience to, say, hey, here's my group and here's some stuff we've done. So it's essentially the management experience that we have from our professional lives and our history of running events in gaming actually made it very smooth from the beginning, which is crazy.
Excellent. Now, do you guys, how do you, it sounds like if someone's pitching a new idea to you guys, it sounds like you're getting big enough now where either game companies or people who are passionate about a particular game are coming to you and saying, hey, can we run this at Captain Con? Do you also proactively go out and seek out certain games or certain types, or is it a point now where you have the core and now you just wait for people to come to you if you want to add more?
Yeah, there's a little bit of both. So Paul, Craig, and I do kind of monthly planning calls in the off season. And then as we get closer, we do kind of bi-weeklies to touch on, milestones and logistics and things like that. So essentially the first barometer for any event is, hey, how did this go last year? And that tells us whether we want to expand it, keep it the same, or trim it down. So that's existing events. New events can be something that we've heard about as, gamers are fickle, so sometimes they'll jump ship to something new and they'll say, hey guys, I'm checking out this new game here. What do you guys think? Can we run an event? And we'll bring somebody in on a small scale for, a certain amount of tables, 4 to 6 tables or something like that, and let them give it a shot. If they have all the details in place and we see some pre-registration, and we'll let them go for it. So there's no real magic to getting an event into Captain Con. You basically just have to come to us, or if it's something new that we're interested in adding, we'll go to you and say, hey, would you be interested in running this? But most likely we've got a contact that can give us the inside scoop, because as I say, we kind of at the general manager level now, so we're not we don't have the ability to honcho individual events anymore.
Right.
So it's really just a big exercise in trust and delegation.
Yeah. How many different games do you guys run now at Captain Con? Like, how many did you do last year, or roughly, or what are you planning on doing this year? You've got a gut feeling?
Well, if you go to the page right now, I think there's 9 pages of individual events that are listed. Wow. And some of those events have multiple sessions and, a lot of logistics associated with them. So I'd say from a simple games perspective, if you look in the board game area, who knows, right? We have hundreds of games in the library, and that Rotunda area was full all day, every day, and most of the night last year. So board games, it's a constant cycle of what you want to play, essentially. From a miniatures perspective, we have a lot of ads this year. Some of the Games Workshop stuff is coming back into vogue.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have talked about that. Mm-hmm. We got plenty of people popping in with some of the smaller games, which is great. We have some board games which run better as kind of mini events because they're kind of campaign-related stuff, like I guess Super Dungeon Explorer does kind of campaigns and things like that, and some of the other games. So I couldn't tell you, to be honest, and it's great because there's no lack of games, but it's just going to grow every year. But I'd say there's probably you have at least 100 choices to make if you look at everything.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's great. So how do you, you mentioned that you don't, you guys are more like general managers now, and you kind of just have to make sure all the trains run on time and things are executing and everything's going well. So how do you guys keep up? Do you have still the passionate games you want to play? Is there an event you guys still play in, or are you pretty much just like proud parents now, sitting back and watching everybody have a good time?
It's definitely the proud parent. The joy that I would get anymore, and you guys know this, you're parents, right? So it's really, I could go and I could beat up some people in a game of War Machine if I wanted to. but I don't really get much joy from that anymore. I really get the joy from seeing that next generation enjoying the experiences that I did before of a well-run, well-managed event of whatever system it may be. And the other thing that I think we pride ourselves on is that we have pretty much zero bias towards any game. Every game is fully supported. If you have a passionate leader in a game system, we'll embrace that person and give them everything we need to make them successful. That's our management style. So, we really do rely on those thought leaders in those gaming areas to tell us what is good. And we then rely on our eyes on during the show to see the experience that the folks are having that come to the show, making sure that they are having fun. If they're having fun and the leaders of that group are having fun and they're having success, it's just going to grow organically. So we really just have to be engaged while we're there, follow up after the show, and then talk about it before the show. And it's kind of this constant cycle of, trimming back in some areas to engender growth in other areas.
Oh, makes sense.
Cool.
Very cool. Have you noticed, has there been any trends in gaming that have required you to sort of think differently about the format? I mean, something I think about a little bit, I don't know if this impacts you guys at all, but it seems like table sizes are shifting slightly in miniature gaming, right? They seem to be, I feel like you're seeing more 3-foot wide stuff, in smaller format, which I would imagine would make things a little bit easier. But are there any trends like that or others that are impacting how you guys organize and do things?
From a logistics perspective, we always do have to take the table sizes into account. There's basically an Excel spreadsheet that takes all the games and all the logistics requests, and you take that, apply it to your floor plan, whatever your maximum space available is, and then you compare that to what your expected turnout for that event is, and you tell the organizer you're good to go, or I'm going to have to trim you back, or if you've got a lot of interest, you might expand the event. And it's a constant juggle. Since we have made that conscious decision to keep it all kind of, board game / miniature game, there's not a lot of tech requirements. It really is just the logistics of managing the square footage. So No significant challenges as of yet, but I'm sure at some point it'll just be getting a bigger space. That's what really will be the challenge that we'll face.
So it sounds like you have a great story. You're growing, year over year, you're getting larger, you're beating your growth expectations. How does that work? How do you promote and grow your con every year? Is it just word of mouth? Do you have a technique? What are you guys doing to spread the word and grow your convention?
Well, we rely heavily on Vladimir Putin. He's a close ally. We really do abuse Facebook. It is a very popular platform, which we use for both, managing our internal discussions on a private site that we have there. Most of the folks that are on the crew are on there and can give us pretty instant feedback back and forth. So it's an easy platform to use. And so Facebook is our core. It's a good way that you can promote messages if you really want to. You can boost your signal for $5-10, which is the kind of budget we would look at for our advertisement. So that's the non-organic part. But it's growth based on organic word of mouth. I mean, among gamers, those communities are people that will rely on their buddy most of all to tell them, is this worth going to or not? Tell me why. You can see an ad, you can hear a podcast, but unless you've got a buddy who knows a guy or a girl who went and had a great time, you're probably not going to make that final sale. So that's really what we rely on, and it's been great so far. That's really all we've done.
That's awesome. So I have to ask Andrew, though, before I really want to know what's coming this year. But before I do that, so you mentioned you don't really play, War Machine or miniature games much anymore. Do you do any gaming much anymore, or are you really just observing now? Is there anything you kind of like? Is it more casual games, non-competitive mode you play?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have two girls. I have Tabitha, who's 9, and Zelene, who's 6, and they are fully aware that Daddy wants to crush them in board games.
Nice.
So there is no mercy in the Hartland household, and there are tears that are shed, and they will learn the way of the meeple.
Now, have they started?
Sounds like
ganging up?
Russ. Russ is.
Yeah, have they started ganging up on you yet? Because pretty much at this stage, my daughters always, if I'm in a game with them, they always gang up on me.
ABD.
Yes.
Anybody
Oh, yeah.
but Daddy.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have not quite reached that point, but I begin to see the scheming. Like they're getting to the point now where we'll be in a room, and instead of just bickering with each other, they'll like look at us and then they'll go start whispering to each other.
Yes, exactly. You're the focus
seeds-
of their a shared enemy.
Yeah. The seats are being sown.
right. No, I definitely. One of my favorite pictures of my girls is a picture of them quietly plotting against me in a corner. It's awesome.
Yeah, and
that's fun.
That's the family time. That's the board game element, and then I do a ton of online gaming. I'm always interested in what the coolest turn-based stuff is online. I do a little bit of card gaming online. I've been playing a lot of Gwent.
Gwent's great. Yeah.
It's just fun. I've been playing some Eternal, which is kind of the Magic clone, but it's also got some of its own stuff, which is cool. And then I'm playing some old RPGs, some XCOM. So I get my fix online for the most part, which is
very cool. So when you're taking a break from all that gaming and you're planning for 2018 now, what are you guys looking to sort of enhance Captain Con in 2018? What do you got for new events, new formats, any new games, or other new hotness you guys got going on?
Yeah, so as I said, we've got a ton of events which are already on the website, which represents all the miniature games and the board games that we've had before, as well as a huge amount of role-playing games that we've had before. But there is some new stuff. So one of the coolest things that we've got is Hawk War Games has got their Drop Fleet Commander game.
Yeah.
And they're going to be coming to Captain Con and hosting one of their regional invasion tournaments.
Cool.
So they run only 4 of those, and this regionally qualifies you to go to Origins. If you win this event, they will pay for your badge, the event, and lodging for Friday and Saturday night for Origins to go to their final tournament. So that is huge. That is something that is very well publicized by them. We're excited to see it. They have not been with us before, and they'll be sending their staff out to run that, so that is great. We're very excited.
Cool. Now, with that being like one of the big things, and I know people are going to be wondering with Hawk War Games, they just got bought out by TT Combat. Are they still going to be like? I have read that what that actually was intended to do is actually free up the designer so that he can focus on design and leave the business to other people. So I know he's been at Captain Con a couple years in a row now. Is he still going to be there? Sounds like it's going to be a big thing, full throttle forward, which is awesome.
Yep. So I have an email right here from Dan Roach, who's the U.S. rep for Hawk War Games. Mm-hmm. He says, we're still fully committed to coming to Captain Con. And he says, now with resolved merger with TT Combat, we may be asking to expand on what we've signed up for.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're still fleshing out some details, but they want to probably revise the tournament info because second edition has been pushed back a little bit because of the merger. Mm-hmm. They're going to be working on the design of that a little bit. But right now, everything's good to go.
Cool. That might mean that you guys are the first public coming out of the new and improved Hawk War Games. That's cool.
Yeah, it's always great to establish those relationships, and that's really what it is. I mean, Paul, Craig, and myself, our job at the show is to really walk around, shake hands, and have those conversations and make those connections so that we can help these guys make Captain Con their home away from home where they know they're going to have a great show. And that's truly what we're focused on. So I think this is a direct result of that activity in these last couple of years.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Let's see what else we got here. I have some other stuff that I wanted to touch on. So we're also teamed up with DexCon, which is a New England board game focused event. And they sent us a bunch of board games. They put them in our board game library, and we've been doing this for the last couple of years. Our play to win events, where you play an event of a certain board game. If you win the event, you get to keep the board game, and that'll be going on our library the whole time. And then you also get a free ticket to DexCon, which is a local event, which is very cool. And then there's also some very big news about Guild Ball.
Ooh.
So the Guild Ball events have finally been posted. So the Guild Ball events were held up for quite a while because we were in negotiations with Steamforged Games about some things that may be happening at the show. So I can't give you exact details, but stay tuned for a big announcement about Steamforged and Captain Con.
Ooh.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's exciting. So
that's 3 things that I'm excited about.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
Yeah.
So Guild Ball fans, I think this is really, you touched on it, Andrew, a little earlier, but I think what really always impressed me about you guys and the organizational skills and just the, when you guys started the team tournament for War Machine way back in the day, that sort of became sort of the gold standard for how Privateer should be running these things, and they really kind of ran with that. And I think it's not a coincidence that these other companies are like, hey, let's go ahead and team up with these guys, and because we know it's going to be a good show, we know it's going to be well run, we know we're going to be well represented, and it's going to be just a really great experience for the gamers. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that you have all these great miniature gaming companies coming out there and running some significant events with you folks.
Yeah, and we're very excited, and we'll get out there, we'll have a great time, we'll shake some hands and kiss some babies, and we'll be bigger and better next year.
Awesome. That's cool. So anything else we should know about for 2018, Andrew? That sounds pretty fantastic. I mean, I can't wait. I'm always looking for it. Craig and I are big fans. Obviously, we go every year.
Yep.
We try to run some sort of D6G listener event. Well, anybody can play.
Oh,
really.
this year is going to be our 10th anniversary, too.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what I'm excited about. I was going to say the D6G event is what I am most excited about because you guys are helping us out with putting us on the show, get the word out, and you guys are awesome. You've been there since the beginning that we've been, an element of New England gaming. So we want to see you guys there, and whatever you do is going to be cool as well.
Well, it's a really special con for Craig and I think most listeners know this, but that venue and the convention that you guys have, taken over from, that whole event, and you guys were still running your War Machine team tournament when we were there. In 2008, the D6 generation was conceived in the car ride back from that convention. So
really? I forgot that.
Yeah. So this is really, so it's really awesome that you guys are still there. Same folks run an amazing miniature.
Now
game.
we should say, because we don't want to get in trouble.
No. I'm talking
Captain Con did
Craig,
not take over for
No. I'm talking
that
about
other convention.
I'm talking about the miniature gaming.
Stepped into its schedule space.
Yes.
Exactly. Stepped into its scheduled place.
So the old folks there, they were not into miniature gaming. That just happened to be there. It was really Andrew and Craig and Paul and everybody down there really doing the hard work to make the miniature gaming scene, a vibrant activity that happened year after year in February, which is fantastic. And so it's great to come back and be there on what is literally our 10th anniversary there, and it'll be a lot of fun. So we'll do something a little crazy there as well. So it'll be a good time. We're looking forward to it a lot. It's gonna be great.
First round is on me.
All right,
definitely.
fair. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Well, you heard it. You heard it here first.
That's what I heard. I heard Andrew's buying.
I heard
drinks.
blah 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 SteamCon blah 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 or Steam Forged blah blah blah, and Andrew is gonna catch the first round. That's what I heard.
That's what I heard. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, Andrew. So now, if people want to go find out more, what are the places on the internet they can find out exactly what's up with Captain Con?
Yes, you can really go to our website. It's CaptainCon, CaptainCon.com. That is the best place to get all the information, schedule of events, how to buy a badge, details for the Captain Con painting contest, any policies and rules that you want to know about. It's all there. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Captain Con, and you'll get all the details there. It's all linked.
Sweet. Well, thanks for the update, Andrew. And we're going to take a quick break here from Total Fangirl. Break. A quick break.
What?
We'll hear from Total Fangirl, and we'll be back with Andrew in a little bit.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, Total Fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakelin and check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. Our shout out is to all of our supporters over at Patreon. Head to patreon.com/the D6 Generation and you too can support the show. So the other day, a buddy of mine, an auto journalist, Chad, hi Chad, was at an event and he was drinking a beer and he took a picture of this beer because he's a nerd, and this was a picture of a beer worth taking, and it is the Star Trek Klingon Imperial Porter, which is cool, but underneath the words Klingon Imperial Porter there's Klingon. I know what it said, and I said, hey, what's that say? And he said, I don't know. How would I know? And I thought, well, I need to know, and it's not on the bottle anywhere. It doesn't translate what this says. So I said, well, I'm going to go find out. So I took myself over to Twitter and I thought, I know enough nerds. I should be able to find a nerd who has an answer to what this actually means. Like, one of you guys has to know this, right? So I put up the picture that Chad sent with a little arrow pointing directly towards the picture of the Klingon underneath. And I say, hey, what the heck does this say? And it took me, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes before I had the answer, which made me pretty proud of all you nerds. And then this is where it got super uber nerdy. I get a person on Twitter, Flynn Denara, who says, okay, got it. And they give me the, translation. If I could say this, it was like, Blath e Mlev Luth. I'm sure I just mangled Klingon, so some Klingon's going to kill me. But the translation that person came up with was stop talking, drink, which I thought sounded pretty appropriate. Like, that was pretty cool. Stop talking, drink. That's very, very Klingon. But then what was funnier, as things went on, I got other translations of what it was. Somebody joked that, prune juice is a warrior's drink, is what it said, which I thought was kind of funny. But then it got really super nerdy, as if it wasn't nerdy enough that I had a number of friends who actually knew what this was, could translate it to both the pronunciation of the Klingon and the meaning of the Klingon. I then had them get into this uber nerdy discussion about, well, one might say that it says stop talking, drink, but one could also say it says shut up and drink, or one might say, stop blathering, drink. They got into this discussion about what the colloquial use of this would actually be. I have like 50 tweets on this in my timeline with nerds who speak Klingon discussing exactly how this stop talking, drink, or shut up and drink actually translates, which I think is kind of brilliant. So I just had to share with you, I love that I have enough nerds in my Twitter feed that not only do I get an answer, but a nerd fight breaks out as to the exact appropriate translation of the Klingon on a beer bottle.
Hey, welcome back, and now it's time to talk about our friends at Battle Foam. And folks at Battle Foam wanted us to remind you guys that it's almost Thanksgiving. We are just a week away from the time you hear this episode, and man, oh man, every year Battle Foam has an amazing Black Friday deal, and this year's Black Friday mega sale is no exception. 15 to 30% or to 60% off on pretty much everything. And I mean, you name it, they've got it there. You want 720s? For crazy good prices. You want 432s. The cases are amazing. The sword bags, which are the super affordable soft-sided bags, those are really great. The ammo box bags, foam. I mean, foam just, you got to see this stuff to believe it. The Magna racks are on sale. Great way to transport. If you're a hardcore painter or want to transport those models, they're not touching anything but air. Magna racks are the way to go. Privateer Press, the brand new Privateer Press bags are 25% off. I've got to go. Got to go now. I need that. I want the new Privateer Press backpack. It is so hot. Don't miss the Battle Foam Mega Black Friday sale. It starts actually at 12 a.m., starting 12 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning at the crack of dawn, and goes all the way through Thanksgiving weekend. So don't miss out. Make sure you get your Battle Foam this weekend at crazy good deals over at the Battle Foam Black Friday Mega Sale at battlefoam.com.
You're listening to the Dice Tower Network at Dicetowernetwork.com. More fun than Merchant of Venus. Wait, what?
Who writes these?
Hey, welcome back. And, we haven't had a segment yet in a while. And since, Andrew's got a couple... How old are your kids now, Andrew? Just to remind the audience here.
I have 2 daughters. Tabitha is 9 years old, and Zelani is 6.
Perfect.
Wow,
And Craig,
nice.
Reese is how old now?
He's 7, so right in the middle.
Right
there.
in the zone. Those are great prime gaming years. And my daughter's a little older than that now. They're 15 and 13. So, but these are prime years for some of the most fun family gaming you can do. And we haven't really talked about these in a while. And both Craig and Andrew dove in on this new game at the same time. So I thought we'd talk about Santorini. And if we have time, I'm going to talk a little bit about Bunny Kingdoms, which I think also would appeal to the age group you guys are in, but also my older daughters really like it. It's the kind of game I think that you can have in your family board game collection for many, many years and get a lot of good use out of it. So, but let's kick it off with Santorini, guys. Craig, why don't you start us off? What's the scoop with Santorini?
Well, Santorini was introduced to me by Russ at Gen Con because he said, "Oh my God, I saw the game you're going to buy, Reese." And I was like, I generally dig my heels in at that point and don't even look at whatever Russ is about to recommend. But I thought, okay, I'll go see. And they had, I'm going to be talking about 2 companies when we talk about Santorini. Spin Master at Gen Con had a really cool booth that had a huge mock-up of the game Santorini, which is basically a stacking game. So you have these little buildings that there's a base of the building and then a slightly smaller middle of the building and then a slightly smaller cool top of the building and then a blue dome that goes on top, which if you've ever seen any pictures of Santorini, the actual island, in Greece, there are these blue domes all over the place. They look beautiful, and everything is like these pristine. The buildings are all pristine white, which is what the little buildings in the game look like. So that giant board really caught my attention, and it seemed like a very simple game. You can play it 2-player, 3-player, or 4-player, and the game was so popular at Gen Con you actually had to sign up for a time to go demo it. And I never did that, but I did watch a couple of people go through their games, and it seemed like it was really fun. And it's very simple. It's very something that a 7-year-old can easily get their mind around. And so I bought it. And as I was buying it, they said, "Oh, if you want, here's because it's Gen Con. So as you're buying the games there, they give you here's a couple promo cards that are really cool, that nobody else can get." And if you want some more of those, you can go down to the Roxley booth, which is just a few lanes down that way. And they have an expansion and some more cool free promo cards. So I went down there and I was like, I want the expansion. And so I bought all this stuff. After I had bought it, they then said, "Oh, by the way, we use totally different rules than the rules the Spin Master has for the game that they're selling right now. So you need to go online and get the rules for the game for how to use these things that you just bought," which confused the hell out of me.
You just confused me.
Yeah. So
Right.
yeah. So here's my suggestion to you. If this game sounds cool, and I think it is, go and buy it. And whatever you buy, the box will have the rules you need. I think what happened was Roxley kickstarted it, and it did very well. And the version that they sell has like a neoprene mat, which doesn't make much sense to me because you don't need a neoprene mat. It's like it just like looks pretty underneath the city, but what you get is a really cool hard plastic cliff that's like a circular cliff that there's a plateau that holds up the board. That's a big grid, and the neoprene mat I think is like an ocean that goes underneath that, which is, I guess it's okay. But what then happened was I think they must have licensed it to Spin Master. And Spin Master must have done something to the rules that made them different than the rules that are for Roxley's game. And it might even be they have the same base rules, but then there are these God cards you can use that we'll talk about in a minute that change some key thing in the game. And I think that's where the difference is. But if you buy the game anywhere, you buy it at a store or online, the rules that come in it, you're going to be fine. And then only if you love it to death would I worry about an expansion, and in that case, you're then going to have to dig deeper and figure out which set of rules which is what this, that, and the other thing, because that was confusing to me, and I was very resentful, to be honest, that I had spent that money and then found out that it was I had to go online and find these other rules. So enough said on that.
But he's not bitter, folks. He's not bitter.
I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter. I'm just mildly resentful.
So Andrew, how did you come to own your copy?
You heard it. You knew about this before we mentioned it. So where did you hear about it?
So, it's the holiday season, and part of the holiday season for me and my family is the updating of the Amazon wish list. The shopping mecca of the world. You don't necessarily buy everything from there, but they have everything on there, so it's a great way to set up your wish list. And as always, I'm looking for stuff that'll be fun for the family to play. We go and visit our cousins. My sister's got, or my wife's sister has 2 girls about the same ages. So we look for board games that we can play, et cetera, et cetera. And on that search, Santorini was one of the first ones that popped up. I'd also seen it in Target. Just walking by Target, they've got a bigger and better board game section in the last few years. And it looked good. So I looked up some reviews on Board Game Geek and saw that it was out of print. But it has recently just been reprinted, so I was excited to get into it.
So what's the overview here, guys? How does this? Is this a 10-player game? Is it a 1-player game? I mean, how does it work? When did it come out?
Russ, as I've already mentioned, it's a 2, 3, or 4-player game.
Oh, that's helpful to know.
So basically, you have 2 pieces. Each player has 2 pieces, and they're your builders. And the goal is to build a tower that's 3 levels high, and then get one of your models to climb to the top of that tower. And the first person to have a model standing on the top of a 3-story tower wins the game. And the key is, it's all very simple. When it's your turn, you move one of your builders, and then that builder has to build on any space that's adjacent. So you can move diagonally or orthogonally. And then you can build diagonally or orthogonally. You have to move, then you have to build, and you have to do both. So you can drop as many levels as you want, but you can only climb 1 level at a time. So not only do you have to build a tower that's 3 levels, you also have to build a 1 level and a 2 level to get up to the top. And if at any time there's 3 levels on a tower, and you as the opponent can put one of your builders adjacent to that tower, you can then put on a 4th element, which is the blue dome, which then caps it, and nobody can stand on it. So what you've got are these games where you're trying to run around and build towers while at the same time keeping one of your guys over on the other guy's side where he might be building his tower to put a cap on it so that they can't climb up and get it. And it's very simple, but I thought it was very neat. Andrew, how is that jibe with your basic understanding of the basic rules?
Yes, definitely. And there's also a separate win condition, which is if your opponent cannot move or build, they will also lose the game. So if you can block them sufficiently where neither of their workers can do both actions, then they will lose the game. So I think there is a lot of depth.
So maybe Andrew, you can describe what comes in the. I'm having a little trouble visualizing exactly what we're. So is it a grid you're putting the pieces on, and then there's and are the pieces plastic, and they're like, what is it? What am I working with here for components? Like, what does it look like?
So you essentially have a 5x5 grid, squares. So there's 25 squares on this board. You get a plastic worker, 2 of them for each side or each player. Actually, I only got 3 sets of workers, so I don't know how I would play 4 players.
The box actually only comes with 6, and then the expansion that I bought came with more. And the rule book, if you'll see, actually, if you got to look at the rule book, it's actually a pamphlet of exactly 4 pages. It has rules for 3 and 4 player games, and it actually has one of the criteria when you're looking at all the various gods. It has whether that god is appropriate for a 3 and 4 player game. So if it only has 3 little meeples next to it, it's only appropriate for 2 player or 3 player. Or if it has 3 and 4, then it can be used in any of those 3 variations.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, you basically have this 5x5 grid. Then you have 4 bags of stuff. Each bag contains enough pieces to build however many. I guess you could potentially build 25 fully fledged towers. So I assume there's 25 of each piece type, although I haven't counted.
It's 22 level 1s. 18 level 2s, for some reason 19 level 3s, and 18 domes.
Right. So I guess through various permutations they figured out that you'll never have more than that many.
Exactly, yeah.
And, that set of stuff gives you permutations is a really good word because
Yes, it's a very good word.
the amount of ways that you can play this game is mind-boggling. I mean, it reminds me of Go a little bit because there's this very much back and forth type of rhythm to the game, and I mean, I think it's really deep just from such a simple setup.
Yeah, and the quality of the pieces is great. They're hard plastic. They're shiny white for the buildings, and then the blue domes are really nice and glossy. The the worker meeple guys are really cool. They're chibi. Well, they're sort of chibi, kind of like they're very cartoony. There's a boy and a girl, so you got that covered. And then it comes with these cards that are really nice, high quality cards that are god cards, and you can each be a god that then changes some fundamental rule of the game that we've already described. So, for instance, my favorite one, I don't know, I've only played with the gods once. Karen had no interest in playing with the gods, and Reese played it once and was like, well, that wasn't fun because I don't know about the balance of the god cards. Andrew, have you used those cards? You might be able to speak better to the balance of that than I.
I probably played 5 or 6 games with god cards, variety of gods. I also observed 5 or 6 games between.
Oh, you're hardcore.
Girls. Yeah. So I would say, just based on my old organized play gut instinct, that there are a few gods that probably overshadow the capabilities of some other gods, but probably not so much that it's a guaranteed win or anything. Obviously, there's intricacy to the game, but some of the abilities are pretty basic.
Right.
And then you look at the guy next to you, and it's like, oh, he can basically do that and something else. So,
right. Well, I mean, the one that blew me away was Hermes, which
that's exactly the one I was thinking of.
if your builder doesn't climb, so he stays all on one level, both of your builders get to move instead of just one, and they get to move an infinite number of spaces. So
Or
they're basically blinkering all over.
Yeah, they can choose not to move too, which is also a big deal.
Oh, can they? I missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's even bigger because that's one of the few ways you can kind of try to lock somebody out is to make it so that when you see that they can't get a guy in base to base because they're already in base to base and you've blocked them out in all the other bases, that's quite often the time to make your move. So if a model has the ability not to move and yet then still build, that's actually huge. That'll like block out a whole strategy actually.
Yep. Yeah, I think Hermes is a little bit OP.
Yeah. Hermes is the Chibi Hermes is a little OP and Santorini.
So this is so the gods give you asymmetric play, which sounds really pretty fun, except with the occasional danger of someone may be a little over the top. So is the setup simple? Is this like open the box, play the game, right to the table?
100%. Yeah, I have all of mine in little Ziploc baggies now. And so, I mean, there's also a whole baggie of all kinds of different icons that are and tokens that are used depending on the gods that you use.
Right.
And I haven't used any of those yet. But you've got a baggie of level 1s, a baggie of level 2s, a baggie of level 3s, a baggie of domes, and the little baggie with the workers on it. You just put your little pedestal on there, put the base on there, put the tabletop on, and you're good to go because you start with. I think it says the youngest player starts first.
Correct. Yep.
And they just put both of their people down, and then you put both of your people down, and you can't ever be in the same space at the same time, and then it's off to the races, and the whole game's good to go.
And the builder dictates where you can put your buildings. Is that how that works?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yep. You got to move it first into any adjacent space, and then they must build into any adjacent space.
And then and that's it, real. And then whoever's got the tallest building wins, or is it a
nope. No, you have to be you win. There's no scoring. There's winning and losing. And winning is you've got a worker at the top of a 3-story tower.
Oh, so first
or as Andrew said, or the first person who cannot move or build. Yeah.
So there's player elimination because in a 4-player game, if one person got eliminated, the other 3 would keep going, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. And what's an average game length?
The games that I played are all like 15 to 20 minutes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's a very, very fast, fun game.
Nice.
There's a lot of depth of thought, though, in that 15 minutes, which is very interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely.
touch on that. Well, first, before you get there, because I think that's really interesting, what did you guys pay for it? Because I want to say what I looked online, it was about $50. Do you feel like it's a good value based on the I guess the plastic, the buildings, the little chibi meeples or whatever? Is it a good value for the box?
Well, I got it on Amazon for $25. So
yeah, I was gonna say.
wow.
I think I paid 20. Again, it was a lot more money at Roxley's booth because they were selling the remnants of their Kickstarter versions away. So I think it's going to depend on what you find. The Spin Master version that I bought, I believe I got the con price was 20. I think. In fact, I know it was 20.
So does that feel good? It sounds like a good price, but
at 20, it's a no. At 20,
it's a no-brainer. Even at 25.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So sorry, I cut you off, Andrew. So what are some of the? Where do you like the intricacies? Where does the complexity come from, and the strategic thinking?
So, and it's interesting to me because I would love to be able to get my kids to express the thought process, but obviously that's a little deeper type of experience for their age. But for me, yes, ma'am. Sorry. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I will tell you when I'm done. Yes. I will not abandon you, child. So anyway, sorry about that. But the process for me in this game is similar to chess because with the limited movement and build options that you have, right? You only have two pieces. You know where you can move. You know where your opponent can move. So there is the opportunity to pretty quickly analyze what the options are based on the state of the board. However, if you think 2 steps ahead, then the permutations get even bigger and bigger. To me, it feels like 3-dimensional Connect 4 a little bit.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Which is something that is very interesting. And the fact that you have 2 pieces that you can manipulate makes it a lot less linear. If it was just one piece, obviously it'd be more of a tic-tac-toe type of game. But since you have 2 workers, you have a lot of options that you can weigh every turn. But like I said, there's only so many things you can do, so it's not analysis paralysis. It's actually pretty quick decision making relative to the whole game, but it is pretty deep. So I really appreciate that.
And it's also it's a little hard to wrap your mind around the fact that you don't have to alternate between the 2 workers. You could just work one worker the whole game. Like the first time I played Karen, it was a couple turns before I realized she was bouncing back and forth between the 2, and it was not to her advantage. And I had to say, no, you don't have if you use whichever of your 2 builders is in the most advantageous spot for you at that given moment is what you have to do. So it gives you all kinds of different options as you're going forward and building your strategy. And a very quick note, don't buy this from Amazon because Russ is right. On Amazon, all of the prices are floating around $50 when if you look, you can get it from Barnes & Noble or Target and any number of other places for $30.
Oh, I must have gotten lucky then.
You must have picked up the last normal one.
Last affordable one.
And the $50 ones are from Amazon are not the super spruced up ones either. They're the exact same product as far as I can tell. Yeah.
Shop around, people.
That's right. Shop around.
So,
but yeah, the decision making is great.
Great. Well, we got to rate this game then.
Mm-hmm.
So Craig.
Oh, wait, again, I'm going to jump in one more time. Because if you put in Spin Master Santorini, then you can get it on Prime for $30.
There you go.
But if you put just Santorini, it's giving you the Roxley box, which looks like the exact same box to me, but costs $50.
So,
all right, there we go. So, Russ, yes.
In the style of someone vacationing in Santorini and describing the excitement they could find there, please explain the patent pending D6G rating system.
Okay, well, let's see. First, I gotta. It is windy at the top of the cliff, and we're in Fira, the capital of the island, and we're looking out over that lagoon. It's amazing, but if you look down, there's a couple different things you could do. You could either take the cable car down to where all the cruise ships are, because that's really the only way to get to the island, or there's a donkey path, and everybody else pays the $3 to go up the donkey path, like you take a donkey, you go up, you can, if you want, pay $3 to ride a donkey down. Okay, now that means that you're going to be like rolling back and forth at a very awkward gait on a donkey, looking straight down a 300-foot cliff. Okay, and it's all like donkey dung strewn, and it's all slippery, and it's super, super scary. Okay, so I would say if you're looking for excitement, let's say you're looking for excitement, that's going to be like you're really excited, and anybody else who's looking for excitement would want to take the donkey path. So the donkey path would be like a 2+ in the D6 generation rating system, because if your average adventurous person rolls a die, they're gonna like this on 5 out of 6 results on that die roll, like a 2+. But the cable car, it costs more, it's air conditioned, it's entirely safe, completely boring. Okay, sure, you get the same beautiful views of the caldera, but I mean, other than that, it's like this. Oh, it's like a weak sauce. So that would be like a 6 if you're adventurous. Right. So the lower the number, that's great. The higher the number, weak sauce.
All right. So guess first. So Andrew, based on that extremely insightful and extremely concise D6G rating system explanation, how would you rate Santorini?
Based on my limited experience, but my long history of gaming, I would give this one a 2+, no problem.
Ooh, nice. Wow.
Oh, that's a no-brainer then.
Wow.
Yeah.
All across the board, that is a no-brainer.
There's depth. If you want it, if you want to play it quick and easy and not think about it, you can do it that way. I taught a 6-year-old how to play it in 5 minutes, and she follows the rules. 2+.
What is your kids now? Before I let you off the hook, what is your kids' desire to play it again? Do they ask to play it proactively?
They have. They've asked to play it multiple times since I taught them. So that's good.
Excellent. That's a good.
Nice.
Craig, how about you, sir?
Well, I'm not going to be able to go so high because, like I said, I played a lot, and then I played a lot with Karen. Karen did not walk away from this enjoying the game very much. And I think it was kind of the basic rules of the game are very simple. And I think she just saw it as a sort of a simple game that really didn't have a lot of options, because I don't think she enjoyed the simplicity of it. I think she more enjoys more complex games, not ridiculously complex games, but something more than choose one of your 2 guys, move them one, build a building, go on to the next thing. And so I think there might be a thing there with a lot of people that I know that they don't really like games that are over in 10 to 20 minutes. They don't feel like they got a really full experience out of it. So I'm going to give the game a 3+ for that, because I think there are some people out there that don't want a really simple game, that want some more meat on the bones, so to speak. And to them, I would say the God cards in this game probably do that, but I couldn't convince after those first 2 or 3 games. Karen just didn't have any interest in playing those, and I actually forgot the game on Tuesday, which is why I ended up playing the other game that I ended up playing. So I would say a 3+.
Well, that's pretty good.
Now, what's your interest?
Well, I think I definitely want to try it, especially both of you seem really enthusiastic about the depth to it. And so I like simple, elegant games with depth. The thing is, I have Medina, and Medina feels to me like this, but a little more in depth. Like I wouldn't want to play Medina with like someone less than 8 years old, I think. Might be a little too complex for them, but 8 and older, I think could easily handle Medina. And it's a little more city building. Not a lot more complexity, but that said, I really, really, really want to try it. So Craig, I have a 3+ desire to try it, Craig. The next time you bring it to the gaming store so I can try it out, see if I want to buy it for my girls. And at that price point, it's hard to say no. If I could find it at $25, I'd probably pick it up.
All right.
There you go. I think we still have time to go through Bunny Kingdoms real quickly. So,
yeah.
Andrew, have you heard or seen of Bunny Kingdoms at all? Anything about it?
I have not.
Okay, so your daughters might really like this because bunnies. But don't let the awesome bunny artwork fool you into thinking this is a super simple game, because while it is a simple game to play, and it is chock full of amazing artwork, there is a level of depth of tactics and screw your neighbor here that are so strong and awesome that my family loves it and is now their go-to family game. So Bunny Kingdoms just came out this year. It released at Gen Con by ILO. It is a 2-4-player game, and it does play in right around an hour. It's right at that 1 hour point, which is a sweet spot for family games, because I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I find that unless you have gamers in your entire family, most people don't like a game to go more than an hour. It's funny. They'll play for 3 hours straight if they're resetting the game and starting again. Mm-hmm. But they don't want a single gaming experience to go really long. Do you guys find that to be the case in family games?
I cannot get my kids to play an hour game yet.
Yeah,
so. There you go. So shorter is better is what I'm basically saying.
Yeah.
Exactly right. The short attention span. Now, Bunny Kingdoms can play faster, right? So you can play it in about 40 minutes. And I think with younger kids, you probably would, because they would have no analysis paralysis. There's not that much, but there might be. What's also really nice about Bunny Kingdoms is it is chock full of little plastic bunnies, and they're so cute. They're little plastic bunnies, little plastic ears, little plastic noses, little plastic whiskers, little plastic tails. And each player, they're in the different colors of different factions. There's 4 different color sets. I think red, green. I can't remember the colors. There's about 40 bunnies per bag. So you've got a lot of bunnies. Plus you've got there's little bunny cities. These cities have 1 tower, 2 tower, 3 tower, and these are all extremely cool little plastic bits that are themed. So the tops of the turrets, they're meant to look like little fantasy castles, and the tops of the turrets are inverted carrots, and there's little cross carrots over the doors. There's just a lot of little details in the bits in this game to like. It's only $40 US, so very, very affordable. ILO does this all the time because they mass produce these games. That price point is way low for the amount of parts in the box. I'm really impressed they were able to get it that cheap. So basically, the only other thing in the box you're going to notice, in addition to the board that unfolds, the board is pretty simple. It's got nice art on it. It's got a very tight grid with A through Z on one side and 1 through 9, I think, or 8 on the other side. So you basically got this 8x8, not 8 by A through Z, but I think it's like an 8x8 board or grid, right? So a lot of coordinates on it. And what's basically going to happen is you're going to be putting your bunny in these spots. Now, each of these coordinates, though, have different icons on them and artwork to tell you that that's a field of carrots. That's a coastal space. That's a mountaintop, right? For that kind of thing. And the other thing in the box is a gigantic deck of cards. You shuffle this gigantic deck of cards together. You give each player their starting bunnies, and you're pretty much ready to go in this thing. So what you're going to do is, based on the player count, you're going to deal everybody a hand of cards. And based on the cards you get, then it's a drafting game. So each player is going to choose to keep 2 cards and then pass the rest of their cards to the player in the beginning on your left, right? So you just pass the rest of your cards. After you pass your cards, before you look at the new cards you just got, you play the 2 cards that you kept, right? So the 2 cards you keep, most of the cards you're going to see are going to be coordinate cards. So it might be B3 or A7 or G6 or whatever, right? If you got a coordinate card, you take one of your little plastic bunnies and you put them in that coordinate. You now own that piece of land. That's called a territory. You own that territory the rest of the game. What you were trying to do is build fiefdoms, which are connections of little territories. So if you have 3 territories that are adjacent to each other, that's a fiefdom. And so you're going to try to build those connected together. The only other cards you might have in your hand are either cards that allow you to build something other than putting a bunny down. So, for example, there might be a card that builds one of those plastic cities, or 1 turret, 2 turret, or 3 turret cities. If you got one of those cards, you take a piece of the building plastic, you put it on top of the card, leave it in front of you, because there's a later phase we actually get to build. And the other kind of card you could have in your hand is a card that is basically a victory point multiplier at the end game. And if you have one of those, you put it face down, and that's for later. And these cards are something like at the end of the game, if you're the player with the most territories or the biggest fiefdom or the most cities, you get some kind of force multiplier, right? So you're kind of watching those. So all you really basically do is you keep 2 cards, you pass the rest. Before you look at the cards that got passed to you, you show everybody the 2 cards you got, unless it's one of these victory endgame cards. You show the 2, you put your bunnies down on the board, right? And then you pick up the cards that got passed to you, keep 2 more, pass the rest to your left, show the 2 cards you got, take those actions. That's all you're doing. You're basically keeping 2 cards and passing them. After you go all the way around and all those 10 cards you initially dealt are gone, that's the end of the action phase, and now it's a scoring phase. And scoring is super simple, but it does involve multiplication, because you're multiplying like rabbits. So what you want to do here is you just look at each of your fiefdoms, and you're going to multiply the number of towers on all the cities in your fiefdom times the number of different resources generated by your fiefdom. Remember I mentioned that each of these little territories have icons on them. So a sea space might have a little icon of a fish, and a carrot field is an icon of a carrot, right? And so if you have a fiefdom that has 3 fish in it, 3 fish icons, and 2 tower tops, well, you're generating 1 resource fish, doesn't matter if there's 3, times the number of towers, which is 2. So 1 times 2 is 2 points. You get 2 points for that fiefdom. If I'd had fish there and carrots there, that'd be 2 times 2, and I'd gotten 4, right? So I take that, multiply that, do each of that for my fiefdoms. I get a total score, and there's a score track on the right-hand side of the board. I move my bunny up on the track that much. Each player does that scoring. Then we deal out 10 more cards, and we repeat, except we pass in the opposite direction. That is the whole game. But what's really interesting about it is that as you play this game, the toughest decision is that when you're choosing which cards to keep and which cards to pass, the hard part is in the beginning of the game, it doesn't matter so much. No one really owns anything interesting. And so you're just taking what you can get and see what happens. As the game progresses, all of a sudden there's a card in your hand that, oh my God, that's I7. If I get I7, that connects my fiefdoms from 2 different little fiefdoms into 1 massive fiefdom, giving me a 7 turret multiplier with 5 goods. That's amazing. Oh, but wait, if I take that card and pass the rest, I'll be giving Rose a card that does something very similar for her. I have to decide, do I prevent Rose or score for myself? And a lot of times, it's not that obvious of a decision. It's like really good for me or mediocre for me, but great for her. Do I score now or prevent, right? So there's this really interesting situation you get yourself into, and the scoring multipliers get really crazy cool. What I really like about the game also is the art. So these end game multipliers, things like, having the most fiefdoms or having the largest or having the most bunnies in the corners of the table, things like that, have these really crazy sort of cute, like there's a bunny Braveheart, and he's painted up like Braveheart, but he's a little bunny, just really, really cutesy artwork that the kids love. But it's a really meaty strategy game that really gets the competitiveness going, and I really, really enjoy it. So that's Bunny Kingdoms. Any questions? Did it make sense all the way through there?
It did.
Made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys think? So how would you guys rate your desires to try out Bunny Kingdoms?
You go ahead, Andrew.
I'm looking at the board now. Some online images. So, it seems like pretty standard area control with a little bit of RNG to spice it up.
Andrew's speed watching a streaming of it right now.
Exactly. I've got it in my other ear.
Well, it's not standard area control because the trickiest part about this game is that because of the drafting mechanics of where to put your bunnies, you have very limited control of where you're going to expand. Right?
Yeah, that is a turnoff to me. I'm a planner.
Yeah. Right. Well, and it's interesting because you get control. Well, yeah, you got to be willing to do that. And that's really an interesting part of the game.
So for me, I would say, I don't know if I would even try it.
Really? Okay. Wow. Okay. So I've turned Andrew up. So that's a 6+ Andrew to try it. I have to force you to the table. Force it.
I'm not a big fan of bunnies either.
Oh, wow.
Wow. He's biased against bunnies.
All right. Well,
that's why.
I will say
you're a bunnist.
I would have if someone had asked me, what would you rate it for a planner who doesn't like bunnies? I would have made that a 6+. So I think I was right there with you. Craig, what about you? What's your desire to try out Bunny Kingdoms?
Well, I'm trying to ignore the fact that the very first time you introduced me to the idea of Bunny Kingdoms, you said, this is not a game you would like.
Well, that's true.
So I'm trying to look at it objectively.
Right. See, and this is why, for our listeners, while Craig thinks this through,
this
is why I was able to sneak this in with a different game review, because it's one of those games where
I feel like this was a stealth maneuver,
on its own. I could have never gotten this on the show as a review here, but by sneaking it in here, I'm able to describe it with a little bit more detail for those of you who actually do like drafting games with bunnies, which I understand is a small segment of the population of gamers at large, but I'm just throwing it out there. There are some of you out there, I know it because I've run into you when I played this game. Go ahead, Craig. What are your thoughts?
Well, let's see. I as well really dislike drafting games.
Okay. All right.
I'm ambivalent on the topic of bunnies.
Okay.
I can take them or leave them.
All right, sure.
But when you combine them with drafting, I don't know. I'm gonna give my interest to play this a 5+, and I think that's only because I'm trying to force myself to be fair.
To be right. So again, I think I have to give you the same rating I gave Andrew, which is you don't like drafting games and you don't really care for bunnies.
Well, no, bunnies in the right circumstances, I can be a big fan of the right bunny.
Well, okay, maybe
the right bunny
then.
can win me over, but
all right.
So yeah, but I mean, you lose like you said when you first introduced me to, I got this game and all the kids love it, is that I don't like drafting games. So right there, so
you do have to like drafting games.
Yeah, or at least not dislike them as strongly as I dislike
So we know
them.
what the rating is for people who don't like drafting games.
Right.
So my rating
Russ,
is.
why don't you tell us what the rating is?
Well,
for a person
I don't know.
who generally doesn't like drafting games either,
This is
unless
my
they're really
rating.
good.
This is my rating. I love this game, so and I have to just throw that out there. Now
you have been talking it up quite a bit.
I've been playing a lot. It's going to be on one of my top played games here pretty soon at the rate it's going because it also plays fast. But what I like about it is, yes, it's a drafting game, but I just like how fast it plays. It does feel extremely thoughtful, and you get really into it as the cards pass. You see the cards go by, and you realize when someone else does, you're like, I had that card in my hand. What was I thinking? So it's not like luck.
Right.
There's no like luck battle dice to roll and worry about losing something. It's really all like it was in your hands and you let it slip through kind of a thing. So I would say you do have to like bunnies. I would throw that out there. If you don't like bunnies, then this is not a game for you. If you really, really have a thing about drafting, it's not a game for you. Although I like it, I'm not a big drafting guy. Like I'm not a big Seven Wonders guy, but I like this game. So I would say this is a 3+ game.
Okay.
And if you are passionate about bunnies, like if you are a bunny collector, this becomes a 2+ game. And if you do not like bunnies or drafting, it's a 6+ game. So I'm going to give it 3 ratings like that.
And we have proof, actually.
And we have proof because Andrew's like, no way in hell. Unless, like, you give it to my daughter, Russ, and I'm forced to play it, and then I will kill you. No,
not that bad. Well, my experience with bunnies recently is they're in my backyard, and my dog Rango likes to kill them and bring them to the back door.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's pretty
you
dark.
have traumatic experiences with bunnies as well to contend with.
Yeah,
and my children watch emergency vet shows on Travel Channel, and the most common occurrence for bunnies is like various flavors of instant death.
Various flavors of
instant bunny
coming
death.
into the vet, it's not going to survive.
Instant bunny death.
Various flavors.
Like, hey, I'm bringing my
save my bunny.
Should
Instant
the head
bits
be
and
backwards
pieces.
like this? Is that wrong?
My bunny chest.
But I've been holding the head to the neck the entire time ever since the accident.
Well, look, I mean, literally, these emergency vet shows, somebody will come to the vet. They're like, hey, this is my bunny Chester. He's here for his annual checkup. And they'll be like,
why is he flopping
we
around?
need
like
the veterinarian stat. He's defibrillating the bunny. It's like, no bunny survives those shows.
Oh, see, I did not see this game review.
Speak of the innocence.
Oh, my daughter's talking.
Yeah, it's a dark day for bunnies.
It's just not good. So what were we talking about again?
Well, Andrew, I think we're going to have to call it here at this point. I mean, at this point in the show,
Ross, I think your whole idea backfired.
I do. Well,
your little scheme has
it
not.
may, your mileage may vary on Bunny Kingdoms, but in any case, Andrew, thank you so much for joining the show. I don't think I can watch this animal rescue thing. I'm afraid to see too many dead rabbits now.
Right,
it's possible. If you see
you
a
too
rabbit,
won't be able to play Bunny Kingdoms.
No, right?
If you see a bunny at a vet, you just, rest in peace. That's pretty much what's going to happen.
So, Andrew, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate coming on the show. If folks want to learn more about, you or Captain Con, where should they go on the internet?
Yes, definitely check us out. Go to captaincon.com. That's our main website for registration and events, listings, things like that. We're always up on social media, Captain Con on Facebook and Twitter. We haven't really gotten into the whole, Snapchat and other stuff like that. Is that worthwhile? Should we get into that? I don't know. There's more characters on Twitter now, from what I've heard, so we're going to have to get bigger.
There are, yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, just search us out. Search us, Captain Con, and a variety of places, Facebook, Twitter, and goodold.com, and you'll get all the details.
Awesome, Andrew. Well, thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it. We look forward to having you on the show in the future again.
Sounds good, guys. Appreciate coming on.
Bye, Andrew. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Everyone at Patreon who has helped us keep this show going for the past many years now. The Patreon patron supporters have really come forward for us and really made this show possible for years. And so thank you very much. Sincerely thank you, because without you guys, there wouldn't be a D6 generation anymore. And tonight, I would like to thank Jan Freundlich, I think, Benjamin Gaeta, Jay Gallagher, Scott Garvin, and CJ Gaver. God, I can only hope I got one or two of those. Did you ever notice how easy it is to forget what came before you, or the giant shoulders upon which you stand? As I talked a little bit about in this episode already, my son Reese and I spent a night on the battleship USS Massachusetts for his Cub Scout troop. And it was a blast. Now, I won't say it was a blast sleeping, because that wasn't a blast. Although I will say that his friend's dad came through for us and got us a compartment when most everybody else was sleeping in corridors and things like that. And for those of you who don't know too much about the battleships of World War II, they were crowded below decks. And I didn't know this, but I learned a lot about the Massachusetts over the 2 days that we were there, and it was fascinating. The story of the Massachusetts was really incredible. It started the war. It was being built before Pearl Harbor, and then it was fast-tracked after Pearl Harbor. Its first action in the war was the Battle of Casablanca during the American landing in North Africa, and it took part in 33 battles over the course of the war and never lost a single man in battle. So that was pretty interesting. It was hit several times. In fact, they have most of the shells that hit it on display in one place or another in the ship, which I found fascinating. But it is unbelievable. If you live anywhere in New England and you're at all curious or interested about World War II, I highly recommend you go to Battleship Cove. Don't put Battleship Cove in your GPS, by the way. You actually want to find the street address. I did not do that. The place is called Battleship Cove, but if you put that in your GPS, it'll bring it to the Battleship Cove as close as it can get, which unfortunately is a giant bridge that goes right over the battleships and into Rhode Island. So that's bad, especially when you're running late. But yeah, it was awesome. We had a blast. Reese loved it. We watched some of those old shows. I think I mentioned it on the show. The old History Channel series Dogfights had a few episodes in the second season that were naval battles, including Leyte Gulf, which is again fascinating. And he watched that. And he loved it. He thought it was really interesting. He knows everything about the USS Johnston, which made visiting the Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., which is another destroyer, although a more contemporary configuration, 1969 configuration, as opposed to the World War II configuration. I mean, he recognized it, despite the fact that the differences. And there's a submarine, and then there is an East German missile. They don't call them frigates, but a small ship. The smallest ship there carried 4 cruise missiles, 2 on either side. And when Germany reunified, they sold this ship to the U.S. for training, and so that they could look into, these Soviet ships. And when they were done tearing it apart and using it for training, they put it in Battleship Cove. So we were all over that. And that's fascinating, too, because everything on that ship is labeled in Russian, in Cyrillic. And so to do all the training, they actually had to have a technical team go through and relabel every button and switch and conduit. And I mean, everything on that ship has been relabeled with these little, from the 80s, those little ticker tape labeling machines in English on top, not over, but next to or near. And in fact, some of the more important controls were handwritten on like masking tape and things like that. It was fascinating. And it was just great. It was a great way to spend the day and then the night, if you don't mind a canvas stretcher as a bed, or phantom pings and dings going on all night long that sounds like there's 5 little kids beating on the side of the bulkhead next to you, but in fact is not, or they were tireless little kids if they were, because they were banging away the same at 5 a.m. that they were at 11 when I tried to go to sleep. But it was phenomenal. And the Massachusetts in particular, large portions of it have been changed into memorials for a variety of different things. There's a PT boat memorial. There's a cruiser memorial. There's the Massachusetts. There's I think the Vietnam and Korean War memorial is in there, and they're just these vast rooms inside the battleship that have been changed into museums. You can go all the way up to the bridge. You can look into the bridge. You can't actually go into it, but with the massive armored door to get into, you can go the flying bridge, the walking bridge. You can go through that. You can get inside one of the giant 16-inch turrets. You can go inside one of the 5-inch turrets. Several of the anti-aircraft turrets are actually still operational in the traversing and the elevating the guns. All the winches still work, which of course the kids loved, getting in there and moving the guns all around. It was just great, and it was specifically great because it was so close to Veterans Day, and of course, my dad's a veteran. Karen's dad is a veteran. My grandfather was a veteran of World War II. I have almost all of my uncles were veterans, and I think it's an important time to remember. It's always an important time to remember veterans. Those are the people in any, I think, forward-thinking society that have set aside their goals and ambitions quite often to step up and defend their country, and the ideals of their country, whichever country that may be. Anyway. And so I just wanted to take some time. And I know that it's not fashionable lately. I know I'm not supposed to say thank you for your service, apparently, without engaging you in detail in what that service entailed, without expressing in particular my gratefulness for the sacrifices that you made. But to me, that is all. I've seen that firsthand with friends that I graduated with. I've seen it with friends that I know now. So I think for any person who is motivated to say thank you for your service, I think a lot of that is included in there. I don't think most of us are going from a point of view of coming at it from like an old war movie and it's all glory and honor, and I think thank you for your service is thanking you for all of those sacrifices. And in lieu of the people we can't thank because they gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I think it's extremely important to remember that, even if, or maybe even especially if, you don't particularly approve of the military actions of your nation. I mean, it takes a special kind of blindness to blame the people who are serving for that. But I mean, to each his own, I guess. But I've never really hidden what I think about those particular topics. So I had this awesome weekend with my son, and as always, I've always said I'm fascinated with World War II. With my grandfather, who was in the Flying Tigers, I mean, I learned a lot at his knee, and have been studying ever since about that theater. And I think now, it's Veterans Day here in America. It's not Veterans Day in the rest of the world in most parts, but I think there's never a bad day to remember the people who have sacrificed, whether it's 2 years or their entire life, for your way of life and your ideals. And I think that's important. So I'm not preaching to anyone. I'm not telling you have to do this. I am doing it. I would like to extend a special thank you to everyone listening who has made these sacrifices and committed themselves to this service. And that's it. I don't want to cheapen it by making it a lecture or adding any more to it, I guess. So I had a great weekend with my son, and thank you, all of you, wherever you served and whoever you served, for your service. That's all I've got to say about that tonight. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@thed6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
I don't know, man. But then you flip it to like the other side of the animal spectrum, and like a guy comes in with like a parrot that's like its leg is halfway off and its beak is broken, and they're like, this parrot's like 90 years old. He's gonna be fine. And he's fine. By the end, he's like, how's it going?
Okay, so death to bunnies and gerbils, but parrots can make it through just about anything. That's what we.
If it was Parrot Kingdoms, I might give it a try.
Okay, Parrot Kingdoms.
I'd have some faith I might survive.
Well, you could talk like a pirate parrot, which would make it a little more interesting, I'm sure.
Indeed.